My name is Agyemang Prempeh. This is how we start the show today on Class 91.3 FM. Let's start with our regulars. Let's check the commodities market. How much crude oil, gold, and cocoa are being pegged on the international market. And for crude oil, it is selling at $80 per barrel, down from the $81 it sold yesterday. So it means that crude oil has decreased by $1. Gold, on the other hand, is being pegged at 4,623 ounce. In dollars, I should say, down from the $4,641 per ounce it sold yesterday. Gold has also decreased by $18 on the international market. Cocoa is priced at $5,885 per metric ton, also down from the $5,902 per metric ton is sold yesterday. So cocoa price has also decreased by about $17. So in the last 24 hours, crude oil, gold, and cocoa, they've all decreased on the international market. Now, if you're seeking to buy or sell a dollar, I'm here to give you the retail. Dollar is selling at 11 cedis 18 pesos and is buying at 11 cedis 17 pesos. The pound is trading at 15 cedis 25 pesos and is buying at 15 cedis 23 pesos, whereas the euro is going for 13 cedis 5 pesos and is buying at 13 cedis 3 pesos. So these are the rates as usual. For more of these, just go to a registered accredited licensed forex bureau. Don't engage any middleman. Don't go to Accra Circle to do wherever. Don't engage anybody within the black market space, because the regulator, that is the Bank of Ghana, says it is illegal to do so. Now let's check stories shaping both the local and international scenes, and let's start from Ghana, as the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Esiama, has called for a balanced approach to the regulation of Ghana's growing virtual asset sector, stressing the need to protect consumers and safeguard financial stability while supporting innovation. He said the newly inaugurated Virtual Asset Coordinating Committee must help establish a regulatory environment that allows the sector to develop responsibly while ensuring emerging risks are effectively managed. So speaking at the inauguration of the committee yesterday at the Bank Square, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC), James Kluche Aveji, said regulatory consistency is vital in positioning Ghana as a virtual asset hub.
Virtual assets do not respect the needs boundaries between securities regulation, banking supervision, and financial intelligence. A single product, a tokenized asset, a stablecoin, the DeFi protocol can touch all three at once. If this is left uncoordinated, it creates blind spots, gaps regulators miss, and becomes opportunities that bad actors exploit. The Virtual Asset Coordinating Committee is our answer to that risk. It brings the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Bank of Ghana, and our partner agencies to one table with a shared mandate to monitor the ecosystem as it evolves, close regulatory loopholes before they widen, and ensure that no emerging products or provider falls outside appropriate oversight. This is not a symbolic body. Its members carry real responsibility for keeping pace with an industry that moves faster than most.
James Kluche Aveji is the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC). Now, the World Bank is warning that Ghana could face renewed economic pressures from rising global energy prices and tighter financial conditions, despite gains from higher gold prices and improved export receipts. The bank says global growth is projected to slow to 2.5% in 2026, the lowest rate since the COVID-19 pandemic, driven largely by higher energy prices linked to the Middle East conflict. And on the international front, Dangote Petroleum Refinery and petrochemicals NXZ has increased the Ganti price of petroleum motor spirit, also known as petrol, from 1,185 naira to 1,200 naira per litre, effective today, August 26, 2026. An official communication to customers issued on Tuesday, that is yesterday, the Refineries Group Commercial Operations announced revised depot prices for gantry and coastal deliveries. The email, titled PMS Price Change Communication, asked customers to take note of the revised DPRP PMS gantry and coastal price, which is effective today, August 26, 2026. According to the table contained in the notice, the coastal price rose from 1,562,000 naira per metric ton to 1,582,000, while the gantry price also increased from 1,185 naira to 1,200 naira per litre. So it's some 40 minutes past the hour 12. You're still listening to Class 91.3 FM, and this is the afternoon business review. It's now time for us to move straight to a big conversation today. And today we are we're having a conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of the National Home Ownership Fund, Ghana, and the person of Prosper Gutu. Hello, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Nana. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're most welcome. So the conversation basically is going to center on making home ownership accessible, and we're looking at the National Home Ownership Fund, that is the NHF's mandate, the progress and the future of housing in Ghana, because last week we had a conversation about mortgage, housing, how we can make housing accessible and easier for young Ghanaians, and Absa Bank and the State Housing signed an MOU to facilitate such movement. So from where you sit as the CEO of NHF, first off, how dire is the housing situation in the country, and how easy is it for young adults like myself to buy or build a house?
All right, thank you very much. So to understand the mandate of NHF, it's important to understand the housing situation in Ghana. Mm-hmm. You would hear that popularly said that the housing deficit in Ghana is about 1.8 million
units. Yeah.
Yes, approaching about 2 million. Mm-hmm. Essentially, what we are saying is that we need about 1.8 million housing units to close up to make home ownership accessible to mm-hmm. Ghanaians. Currently, on the average, we need about 100,000 housing units a year to be able to close this gap. Unfortunately, we are only able to deliver between 35,000 and 40,000. Mm-hmm. Now, it gets a bit complicated because a combination of factors make houses very expensive.
Right.
Talk about land. Cost of land is quite high, and the other associated challenges are land tenure system and the fact that there's a lot of litigation when it comes to land. So that's one of the driving factors that contributes to the high cost of houses. Aside that, we import a lot of building materials. And so whenever the exchange rate is not favorable, that translates automatically onto the cost of houses. So mm-hmm. About 80% of building materials from abroad means that much of it will have that component that will be transferred to the final consumer. So you hear about prices of houses and you wonder, as a young adult, like you mentioned,
right?
A young professional, if you be able to afford it. That is the reality. And because not a lot of people are able to own houses or purchase homes, there's a lot of pressure on rental property. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of competition because there are limited pathways of home ownership. So if we talk about home ownership, we Currently, the statistics shows that only about 5% of Ghanaians have the means to be able to just go to the market and buy houses. 60% need various products that can assist them, because they cannot just make enough savings and say that they are taking maybe 500,000 cedis or 600,000, 700,000 cedis to go and buy a house.
Yeah.
That is where the role of NHF comes in.
Okay.
So the National Home Ownership Fund is a state-owned housing finance company, and our mandate is to develop innovative products to be able to assist this category of Ghanaians who need that kind of support to be able to buy homes to do so. And we do that in many ways. On both the demand side and the supply side. When we talk about the demand side, that is essentially how do we assist people with these products to be able to buy houses. As I indicated, income levels are very low, especially for public sector workers. And so they tend to be priced out of the property market. So assuming you earn, say, 2,000 or 2,500 cedis a month, would you be eligible for a facility sufficient enough to buy a house? That may be difficult. Some even earn much lower. So if you look at all your other costs in terms of rent, in terms of even your transportation, feeding and other things, at the end of the month, how much can you use for your mortgage repayment and things like that? So one of the interventions that the National Home Ownership Fund runs is that we have what we call the National Mortgage Scheme. So it's a special scheme targeting first-time home buyers. It works in a way that the fund partners financial institutions like the banks. So we lend to the banks at a cheaper rate, so that they would in turn lend to prospective home buyers at a lower rate. So it's a special program targeting particularly first-time home buyers, because many of them may not qualify for the traditional mortgage. So on the market, we have about 9 banks that have mortgage products on the Ghanaian market.
So what rates do you usually give the banks?
So we give to the banks at 2%. It's quite concessionary. And then we do so, and then they also match whatever funding we make available to them. So we call it the blended financing approach. So we bring some money, the banks also bring some, and then we are able to arrive at a relatively lower interest rate. So currently on the market, you will notice that our rate is 8.4 per annum, whereas the commercial mortgage, the least you may get is about 13% upwards. And so one of the biggest challenges why people are not able to access mortgage is the interest rate. But with this program, with this intervention, the interest rate is relatively lower, and so it makes home ownership more accessible to as many people as possible. So you are able to access the mortgage, and you also have lower repayment amounts. So then the one advantage is that if you are able to purchase a house through the mortgage, you move into the house, and then whatever you would have used to be paying rent monthly, you use it to service your mortgage. And you know that between 15 and 20 years, when you are done paying, and our data shows that people are even able to reduce their payment with lump sum payment. So within 5-7 years, they are able to complete their payment. Now, the traditional mortgage also requires some equity payment. So what I mean is that, assuming you are purchasing, you go to any of the financial institutions for a mortgage, and the property value is 700,000. They will say that make a deposit of 20% of the total value of the property. Many people are not able to do that. And so our mortgage...
And why is that?
Yes, but you may have made some savings. So 20% of, say, 700,000 is like how much? That's roughly...
probably even less than 700,000. So let's
20%.
say hovering around, let's say 30.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
in the region of
roughly around 30 thereabouts,
uh-huh.
which is
So,
quite even low.
yes, but is it easy for people to make savings up to
No,
30,000 that they can just take and
no.
make a deposit for a mortgage? No, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So that's why under our mortgage scheme, we don't require a deposit.
Okay.
We advance 100%. Once you qualify for the mortgage, we don't say that make any equity payment. We advance you the full amount. We pay the property owner. Once all the necessary due diligence has to be done to make sure that the property has, proper title and all that, so that we don't run into. So the banks assist us with their systems to do that. We run the checks at the lands commission and all that. Then you advance 100%. The total value of the property. Then you move in, and then you are paying the bank at the end of each month over a certain period of time, after which the title is transferred fully to you, and then you own your house.
Right. So now you're speaking to potential homeowners, just like myself, and you did mention that you need to qualify for this service. How do I qualify for such a package so that I can access my home within the shortest possible time?
Okay, so the scheme is open to every Ghanaian worker. Once you are a Ghanaian worker, you pay tax, you are eligible to access the scheme. But what we encourage prospective home buyers who want to take advantage of the scheme to do is to visit Republic Bank. Currently, the scheme is running with Republic Bank. Visit Republic Bank. They would demand your pay slip to confirm your disposable income. And then on the basis of that, in fact, even if you visited Republic Bank website, there's a mortgage calculator that you can use to determine how much you can access.
Right.
Now, we have a set of real estate developers we work with under the scheme. And we work with them because of the issue of affordability. We try to get them to build houses that may meet the affordability threshold of particularly the target group that we are working with, the first-time home buyers. So they are able to build houses, between, say, 350,000, 400,000, 500,000 upwards, depending on your income, whichever you can. So once you go to the bank, they'll show you that, okay, this developer has houses at this location for these prices. And then whichever you qualify or you are interested in, the bank processes the payment to the developer, and then you get the key to your house, and then you start paying to the bank monthly. But we have another product which we call the rent to own scheme. This is also another intervention where prospective home buyers live in the property, then they pay monthly rent, but part of the rent is a contribution towards owning the property eventually. So over a certain period, we give you up to 20 years, but it admits to some level of flexibility, so that at any point in time that you have some lump sum, maybe there's a windfall, you get some 5,000, you get some 10,000, you want to go and reduce it, you are at liberty to pay. And then over a certain period of time, again, this is very useful because you are not paying rent elsewhere, but you are living in this property and you are paying rent which is slightly higher than the regular rent you may be paying, but that is your contribution, so that over a certain period of time, we give you up to 20 years, and then you own the property. So these are the kinds of products that NHF runs. Now, we are also able to achieve affordability because we lend to developers under the scheme at a relatively lower rate. So whereas a developer may go to for a commercial loan at the rate of, say, 25% or 23%, we give developers construction loan at the rate of about 11%. So that also helps them to reduce the cost of the houses so that we can achieve affordability. So that is part of our construction financing mandate. And then we also partner other state institutions like TDC, Ghana Limited, State Housing, to invest in affordable housing for the benefit of Ghanaians. So in sum, the fund responds both ways by supporting the supply side, where we provide construction financing to increase the housing stock, and we also provide support to prospective buyers by way of mortgage and by way of the rent to own scheme.
Right. So now, in bridging this housing deficit gap, or I should say, probably you work with the Ministry of Housing and all that. You also did mention that, just like I said in the intro, the State Housing has signed an MOU with Absa Bank. Are you working with financial? You've mentioned that you're working with financial institutions, particularly on the viral diagnostic assessment. What exactly is that, and how can that change the Ghana's housing sector, particularly in bridging the housing deficit gap?
Okay, so VIRA stands for vision. So the V in VIRA stands for vision, I institution, R is regulations, and then A is actors, and then L is local initiatives. So this is a model that was developed by the Shelter Africa Development Bank, which they use for what we call a rapid diagnostic assessment of the housing sector of various countries. So you may be aware that Shelter Africa Development Bank is a Pan-African development bank whose mandate is to focus on housing finance. And so they developed this tool that before they do some intervention in a particular country, they do this assessment. Very rapid, usually within a period of 3 months, 6 months, they would have completed the assessment. So we look at government's vision for affordable housing. Government is very passionate about ensuring that the housing deficit is addressed and that houses are relatively cheaper to enable Ghanaians to own them. And so the assessment is looking at various institutions in the housing sector: the Rent Control Department, Department for Rural Housing, Real Estate Agency Council. Look at their mandate. Are they able to adequately respond to their mandate? Are they able to fulfill their mandate? Are there any challenges? Are there anything that things can be done to enhance their operation so that they will respond more adequately to the demand or the mandate for which they've been set up? And then we look at regulations, the various rules, laws that have been passed that govern the housing sector. How adequate are they? Some of the laws that were passed several years, I think even under Nkrumah, around shortly after independence, to what extent do these laws still respond adequately to our housing landscape? And what is the international best practice when it comes to regulation in the housing sector? And then we also look at the various actors, real estate developers, financial institutions, and many others in the sector. Where the consultants who do the assessment engage them to fully appreciate the challenges. For instance, our financial institutions rely on short-term deposits with their banks to be able to run mortgage programs. That doesn't really work because these are short-term deposits from customers. They may come for them at any time, but they are trying their best to use it to finance mortgages that run between 10 to 15 years or so. And so that's one major constraint. That's why in Ghana, our mortgage penetration is very low. Our mortgage penetration is about 0.3% to GDP, compared to other countries that have 20%, 25%, and even up to 50%, which is a major impediment in the housing sector, because when people don't have the means to buy houses, then it stifles growth in the housing sector. The housing sector's contribution to GDP will be very low. So that's one of the issues that is coming up in the viral assessment. Then we also look at the local initiatives. What are some of the programs that are being implemented? Recently, His Excellency the President visited the Saglemi site, for instance. So it's a major housing project that is being undertaken. Right. State Housing is doing projects in Kumasi, TDC is doing projects in Ho and other places. So we look at all these to put them together. So essentially, we are doing a comprehensive assessment of the entire housing landscape, and then on the basis of that, develop a country housing and urban partnership strategy. So this will be a broad strategy that will drive investment in the sector, so that the private sector and all those that have roles to play for us to bridge the housing deficit will work together collectively to do that. And so we are doing this, and and the report will be presented at the upcoming National Conference on Housing Finance, which will be held in October, to put everything together. And then once the strategy is ready, we know who is playing what role in the implementation of the strategy. And we believe strongly that these measures will contribute significantly in resetting the housing landscape.
Right. So, so that's coming in from the CEO of the National Home Ownership Fund. Let me take it again. The CEO of the National Home Ownership Fund, Ghana. I would like for you to mention. I hope I don't butcher your name. So your name is Prosper Hutu.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the CEO of the National Home Ownership Fund Ghana. So we are basically having a conversation about making home ownership accessible, the NHF's mandate, and the progress so far, and the future of housing again. So quick one before our time is up, but I want you to take again, there's a conference coming up in October. So just in 30 seconds, just some small touch on that.
So this is a national conference on housing finance, because we think that discussing the finance issue in the housing sector is so critical. So NHF is doing this in partnership with Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Works and Housing, Shelter Africa Development Bank, the Bank of Ghana, where we bring all the policymakers and actors in the sector together to thoroughly discuss pathways to financing affordable housing in Ghana. So we look forward to a very engaging conference, where we'll come up with a roadmap on how to address housing finance to make home ownership accessible and affordable to many Ghanaians.
Very well. So that's our video show today on Class 91.3 FM. There's the afternoon business review, and that's our wrap up. As usual, we say you don't need a dictionary to understand business use. My name has been Agyemang Prempeh. Tomorrow, Nanoye Ankara will be in a seat to bring you the show. Good afternoon.